see my screen from here. So kindly just give me a moment. I will be sharing my screen. All right, as soon as you're able to see it, please give me a thumbs up so that we can proceed from here. And also remember, keep your questions coming, prepare them so that we are able to tackle them. All right, so I think we should be good right about now. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Let me just go to the very beginning. Yes, I think now that should be clear. Did I see thumbs up? Modoni, thank you so much. All right, those are 6 people giving me a confirmation. Clear. Appreciate it.
It's clear.
So we will have. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. So we are going to have a very short presentation by our team. Modoni is going to take us through this particular presentation, and then we will save the better part of today's sensitization now to respond to any emerging queries and getting clarifications. Modoni, the floor, I want to hand it over to you now so that you can proceed from here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Brenda. So today we will just do a brief slide on eTIMS. We'll just do an introduction to eTIMS. So as we all know, eTIMS is a new talk in town. And to start off, we just ask ourselves, what is eTIMS? And eTIMS, I would say, is a software for our taxpayers that allows for a simple and convenient way of them invoicing. So through eTIMS, you as our taxpayer, you are able to do your invoices and you're able to get a valid invoice that is compliant that you can use when you're trading with the other person. And for eTIMS, I would say we started the rollout from 1st March 2023, that is last year. And it was majorly for the taxpayers who had not onboarded onto TIMS. When I say TIMS, I mean the ETR device that was transmitting invoices to KRA. So it got to a point whereby we noticed that most of our suppliers had not been able to purchase the device due to mainly because of the cost constraint. So from then on, that's when we decided to now start eTIMS to accommodate such taxpayers who did not get a chance to purchase the device. And in speaking so, we'd also say that eTIMS came for the taxpayers who also had the device, but had issues in transmitting their invoices to KRA. So that is just a brief history on how eTIMS came about. But for now, I would say that eTIMS is not just for the VAT taxpayers, but it's also for anyone who is doing business. And in this, it's from the Finance Act that stated that everyone who is in business, they now need to be on eTIMS. For this, we mean that anyone who is in the income tax bracket, you are required by law to onboard onto eTIMS. So we can move to the next slide for us to see why we need to onboard onto eTIMS, or rather the benefits of eTIMS. And one, we see it is free. As I said, it came as a solution for the taxpayers who had not yet purchased the device. So for eTIMS, you do not require to purchase the device because it's a software solution that can be installed on your laptop, on your desktop, on your PDA. Basically, there are various devices that can be used for us to install for you eTIMS. So for this, we see there is no cost implication to you as a taxpayer. The next reason why eTIMS is of beneficial to you is because it simplifies the tax return filing. By this, we mean that with eTIMS, you're able to transmit your invoices real-time or near real-time to KRA, meaning that whenever you lodge your invoice onto eTIMS, we are able to get your data here in KRA. So whenever you're doing your returns, that is from next month, you'll just find that the information has already been populated. So it's so easy for you to do your returns from now henceforth, so long as you have transmitted the invoices to KRA. So it provides an easy way for the taxpayer to be able to file their returns. The other thing, it's flexible. By this, we mean there are various devices that can be used whenever you want to have eTIMS installed for you. You can use, as I mentioned, the laptop, the desktop. So you're not limited to one device. There are various solutions that can work for you as a taxpayer. So we see it also builds compliance in that now that most people are able to comply. So whenever you're doing business with the other person, the business environment, I believe, is now equal to each one of us, because we all get to share the burden of the tax. It's not only on a few people, but it's for everyone. It's easy for you to comply. The other reason is easy stock control. By this, we mean that the solution offers a way for you as a taxpayer to be able to control your stock, because it allows you to record the stock, and you sell from that stock, you're able to know how much are you being left with, and you're able to manage your stock as a taxpayer. So we can move on to the next slide. And by this, we want to look at who are eligible to join eTIMS, or who is eTIMS intended for. I mentioned it's for everyone in business. I said we had earlier started with only the VAT registered taxpayers, but as at now, we are onboarding even the non-VAT registered taxpayers. By this, we mean the mama mbogas, we mean the farmers, the barbers, the saloonists, anyone. So long as you have any income in your business, then you are an eligible person to be able to join eTIMS. From the picture, you can see it encompasses everyone, not just a particular sector of people. It's anyone, so long as you are trading in business. We can move to the next slide, Brenda. So we've been discussing about eTIMS. So now I want to introduce to you the solutions that are available on eTIMS. So we have the eTIMS Simplified solution. This is mostly for people who are in business. And in this, I mean small scale business, who already have they have a business running, and they do not have the VAT obligation. So this is mostly for people who trade very minimally, and also they are able to, like, it's a very simplified version whereby they just need to log in onto eCitizen and be able to generate an invoice. We'll see this in the next slide. We see there's also the eTIMS client. This is mostly for people who have goods in their business, because it allows for you as the taxpayer to be able to record your goods as stock. We see there's the eTIMS online portal. This is majorly for people who deal with services. And the last one, we have system-to-system integration for people who already have a billing system in place. So in the next slide, we should be able to see this type of solutions. So as we discussed the eTIMS simplified solution, you are able to log into eCitizen through ecitizen.kra.go.ke. So it takes you to this landing page. And from here, you can be able to sign up for eTIMS. It's a very simplified version, because you only need to record the customer that you're selling to, and also record the item that you are trading in. And from there, you're able to download the invoice, or even send the invoice to the person that you're selling to. So for this type of solution, it applies for people who have the APIN, not the PPINs people, and for people who do not have the VAT. So these are non-VAT people who are individuals, like they have the APIN. So for this one, it's a very, very simplified version, and it's very simple for you to use. Maybe you can move to the next type of solution.
Very much, Modoni. I'm moving to the next slide, and maybe at this point, I just want to quickly mention that this particular session is being streamed live on our YouTube page, which is KRA TV, so that in case anyone missed out on this session, you're actually able to find it on KRA TV's Facebook page. That is KRA TV on Facebook. Thank you, Mugoni.
Okay, thank you for that, Brenda. So the second type of solution is the eTIMS client. I had earlier mentioned that this is mostly for people who have goods and services in their business, because it is a downloadable software, and you're able to download it from these devices that are listed here. That is, you can download it on your phone, on your laptop, the desktop, and the tablet, as well as the PDA. So the essence of this is because you track your stock from these devices. From these devices, you're able to record, like, I have this particular number of sales or this particular number of goods, and from that stock, you can be able to sell and generate an invoice. And I would also mention that for this one, you need the version of the laptop should be Windows 10 and above. And from this one, you're able to, it allows you to save the invoice as a PDA, which you can be able to send to your clients very easily. So it can be accessible on all those devices that are listed there. But the most important thing about this type of solution is that it is for taxpayers dealing in goods and services, majorly goods. So maybe, Brenda, we can move to the third type of solution. Here we see there's the eTIMS online portal. So I stated that this is majorly for the people in the service sector, meaning that you only deal with services. You don't have any aspect of goods that you supply. It is accessible through the web. It's a web-based application which can be accessed through a browser. So just like iTax, you only need to log in with your PIN as well as a password that you create, and easily generate your invoice that is downloadable, and you can send it to your clients, or even issue a hard copy from this solution. The last one is the system-to-system integration, and this one allows for integration between the taxpayer invoicing system and the KRA system. So how this works, you need to get in touch with a list of approved suppliers, a list of approved third-party integrators that are published on the KRA website. From there, they can be able to guide you if your billing system is integratable with KRA. Also, this system allows you, if you have the capacity to integrate for yourself, it as well allows you to do that. So I can probably, we can give more guidelines on this in case you're interested. You can reach out to us and we'll be able to provide further details on how this is able to work. So the next page, we see how can you create an eTIMS account as a taxpayer. It is very easy. You only need to Google eTIMS taxpayer portal using the link that is there. That is etims.kra.go.ke. So Brenda, we can move to the next slide. So after you go to etims.kra.go.ke, it prompts you to do the sign up process, whereby you need to put your PIN and verify your information. The reason you need to do this is to confirm that whatever details we have here are your correct details, because sometimes you see that whatever was registered on iTax way back, probably by now you have changed. So in case you see that some of these details are not correct, especially like the phone number, you just need to change it by yourself on iTax, and then we'll be able to change it for you on eTIMS, so that you can be able to get a one-time password that allows you to now proceed with the sign-up process. So basically, this is how the landing page looks like when you click on sign up. After you go to etims.kra.go.ke, it brings you to this page. So you just input your PIN and click on verify. So what do we need for us to be able to approve your application? We only need your ID as the business owner, as well as a commitment form that you need to have signed up and indicated your details. The commitment form can be found on the eTIMS website, under KRA website, under eTIMS. You're able to find the eTIMS commitment form. You just fill it out as well as the ID, and you only need to upload these 2 documents. You don't need any other document for you to be able to join eTIMS. So how do you onboard onto eTIMS? Just as we've said, you only need to log into etims.kra.go.ke. You click on Service Request tab, whereby it allows you to select the solutions that you just discussed. From there, you upload the documents, that is the ID and the commitment form, and you just click Send. After there, on our side, we just confirm that the details are okay, and then you can proceed to generate an invoice and transmit it to KRA. So point to note, for the eCitizen platform, you only need to activate you click on activate invoicing. From there, everything approves itself from the back end. So you don't need to even call us for approval. It's a process that you do by yourself. So that is why I said it's very simplified. So on to the next slide. In case you need more information about eTIMS, you can always visit our website, that is www.kra.go.ke. Everything that we've discussed and even more details are there on the website. You'll be able to understand more and whatever is required of you in case you want to learn more about eTIMS. So that is our page. And we'll see there's a public notice that was sent out on 27th December 2023. And it was actually about for the non-VAT registered persons. In a nutshell, it was supposed to let you know that you are not able to claim any business expenditure that you incur in the line of your business starting from 1st January 2024 in the event that you've not transmitted it through KRA. So that means that all the business expenditures for this particular year, they have to go through eTIMS or the TIMS devices. So in case you're trading with someone who you're in business with someone, you need to ensure that they have already onboarded onto eTIMS or the TIMS device, because that is the only invoice that you can be able to use next year when you're filing for your income taxes, to ensure that you're able to claim that invoice. That is the only valid and compliant invoice that will be acceptable for purposes of expenditure deduction. And to that, they had also indicated that we have a grace period from 1st January to 31st March 2024. So during this period, you are requested to onboard onto eTIMS. And in the event that you've not done so by 31st March 2024, that is when there'll be the implication of penalties after that grace period of 31st March 2024. So in a nutshell, that is what the public notice was supposed to communicate to the public, that anyone who is in business, you need to have onboarded onto eTIMS, even though you're not VAT registered. So Brenda, maybe we can see the next slide. So here are our contacts in case you need to reach out for more information or for more clarity. We are based at JKUAT Towers, 8th floor, Kenyatta Avenue. There are our contacts as well as our email address. So anytime you need any clarification, we are always there to support you. Thank you for your time. Maybe we can now welcome your questions. Brenda, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Modoni, for taking us through that presentation very well. Let's just appreciate if you're able to give a hand clap, just look at the reactions that we have and just appreciate that particular session. I hope you can hear me, Modoni. Am I clear?
Yes, we can hear you very well, Brenda.
Thank you, thank you. We need to know whether we had good students listening to you from the beginning. Because trust you me, even as you were speaking, I was also taking notes. And I think the few things that I noted from when you started talking, when you began by just telling us what eTIMS is, and you mentioned that it is a software that is used to generate invoices.
Yes.
Just like saying what I got from the presentation. And then you mentioned then who should enroll for this software, who is eligible. And you said it's all businesses, everyone in every type of business. And the slide that was showcasing the mama bloggers, everyone, any type of business. As per the various laws that you cited, including the Finance Act 2023, and also the act that we have just come from looking at just now, that was put across on December 2027. Yes. And then, of course, you mentioned that there are different software solutions available to cater for all types of businesses. You talked about 4 of them. The first one being the simplified solution, that was the eCitizen solution, which you mentioned is just applicable for individuals, right? Not companies.
Yes, Brenda.
And then you also talked about the solution called the e-client, that is for people dealing with businesses that have goods. They are selling goods.
Correct.
Then you mentioned. Then you mentioned is it the online portal? Yeah. For
it's the
services
online.
For people in this. Yes, and I really liked how you gave an example of how people log into either their iTax accounts or even their emails. It is a similar solution where you log in online. These are for people with services, right? And then finally, you talked about the system integration. This is integrating with third parties. For instance, people or businesses that already have their own devices that they are using for their businesses. There is a way that it can be integrated with the eTIMS software. And you mentioned that such people can actually get in touch with you so that you can give them more details. Yeah? All right.
Yes.
Okay. Then lastly, you talked about 2 things. One was how to actually come on board this eTIMS. And you talked about that one has to create an eTIMS account, a process that is called signing up, where they need to upload an ID. Which document was this, Modoni, that they needed to upload?
They need to upload the ID for the director. That is whatever is on iTax, the person registered on iTax as a director, as well as a commitment form, which is accessible through our website. And in KRA website under eTIMS, they'll be able to find the commitment form.
All right. So those are the 2 things to upload.
Yes.
Okay. And I think at this point is also where you mentioned that their details need to be updated on the iTax system, just in case somebody got on iTax a long time ago. They need to have their details, maybe like their telephone numbers, updated at this point. Is that the case?
Yes. For example, there are people who probably the details were for the accountant. So once you send the OTP, they can't access that OTP. So they need to update their current phone number on their iTax. And then from there, we are able to assist them to update the same on eTIMS.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. The OTP is the one-time password for those that have never perhaps used it. It is that code that comes to your telephone for you to be able to log in.
Yeah.
All right. And then finally, you said after logging into now, after having this account created, then somebody should be able to log in to the eTIMS software using their logging in credentials. Is that the case? Is it their PIN and password? How do they log in?
It depends. If they had chosen the online solution, the one we said it's web-based, they only need to log in with their PIN and the password they created. But if it's the one they downloaded the software, that is the one we saw for the different devices. If it's on the phone, for people who have the goods in their business, then there's a password that is sent from KRA Care that they need to input and create their own password.
This is well noted. Okay.
Yes.
This is very well noted. And for them to log in, you have said they go to eTIMS at kra.go.ke.
Yes, etims.kra.go.ke.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think finally you mentioned now of having been able to access the eTIMS portal, somebody can now go ahead and generate an invoice, among other things.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for those that have followed through from the beginning of the presentation until now. Now we get to where the rubber meets the road, where we have to answer the questions. And there are quite a number of questions. I think those questions that are similar in nature, we will ask them. We will not repeat, will not come back to them. So those that are similar in nature than like the ones that have been asked before, you will allow me to skip and go to the next. So then I welcome you, Modoni, Duke, and Lynn to be on standby. Let me get from our panelists how you'd prefer for me to do this. Do I ask you the questions and get feedback from you, or do you want to go through the Q&A by yourselves while you respond? Which way do you propose, Madam Modoni?
I think, Brenda, you can read the questions from the chat box as we respond to them. And probably you can just combine the ones that are related and then we can tackle them together.
All right, fantastic. Okay, let's just go straight to the question. And I see a couple of people that have raised their hands. So I'll be coming to you, those that have raised their hands with the intentions of asking questions. But let me begin with what is on the Q&A. And I start from a very simple question. This is by Janet, is asking, eTIMS stands for what? What is eTIMS in full?
Thank you for that question, Janet. So eTIMS stands for Electronic Tax Invoicing Management System. So that is what eTIMS stands for.
Thank you. Electronic Tax Invoice Management System. Okay. Janet, thank you. Girish Balsara, this is the next question. He says, good afternoon. I have registered on the eTIMS portal as a service provider. Okay. He also submitted his documents, I believe, by the 10th of this month. And he's asking about the approval of the application. Maybe you can discuss the matter of approval once documents are submitted to answer Girish and any other person that might have a similar question.
Hello, good afternoon. I'll answer this question. So if you apply for eTIMS, especially remotely, ideally, it's advisable that you can send us an email afterwards. Once you've uploaded the documents, just send us an email to our email, teamsupport@kra.go.ke. The S is 1. And then just write down the PIN of the company and then say you're requesting for approval. That way it can be visible and then you can be able to facilitate your approval. So in such a case, you can just do the same. You can just send your PIN to our email and then say you're requesting for approval, because we always have people manning the emails. So they'll be able to see your PIN and facilitate the approval process.
All right, thank you so much. I think in Girish's case, he has also indicated his PIN. Perhaps we can consider assisting him after the session because he's already shared some of his details. Is that fair enough?
Yes, that's okay. We've noted down the PIN.
Thank you so much. Let's continue with James. Ideally, let me ask Lynn, now that you're responding to these questions, and for other taxpayers that might be wondering, after they have signed up and they have submitted the necessary documents, do you have a specified period of time that they need to wait before their application is actually approved? Maybe we can respond to them to manage the expectations.
Ideally, because when you send to our email, it becomes visible because you usually have people manning the email throughout. So if let's say if you send your PIN today in the morning, in the course of the day, it will be approved. If you send it, let's say in the late afternoon to evening, by tomorrow it will be approved. So if you don't send us in the email, it becomes a bit difficult to find your PIN like on the approval list, because you find like so many people are applying, and by the time they get to your PIN, maybe it'll take some longer time than if you had maybe sent us the email. So if you want to be a bit faster, you can just send us the PIN to our emails, because daily people are always manning the emails, and there are a lot more people on emails to make the process faster.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me ask another question by James. He's saying, what system are the taxpayers currently using who have a threshold of 5 million and below? Is it that they are exempt from eTIMS registration? That's a question by James Mwangi.
Okay, so regarding this matter of exemption, for those of turnover below 5 million, the taxpayers are supposed to be informed that the regulations have not yet been gazetted. And therefore, whatever is being reported out there, whether it's in the newspapers, is just considered as hearsay or unconfirmed reports. So we are currently just awaiting the gazettement of the Electronic Tax Invoice 2023 regulations or an official statement from KRA on the same. So at the moment, as we speak, there's no business that has been exempted from eTIMS, and you need to onboard eTIMS, regardless of the turnover that you have.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that response. We have a question here, but just skimming through to see whether I have a similar question. There's an anonymous person that is asking, can we get a list of all expenses which are exempted from the eTIMS software?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Hi, Brenda.
I believe they mean VAT, is it? Yes, I can hear you.
So we're in the process of documenting and publishing a list of transactions that are exempt from eTIMS. So for now, we'll just hold on until they are published. But we are in the process.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that is well noted. Anonymous attendee, please note that it is currently underway. Just be on the lookout. Then we have a question here that is coming from Elizabeth. Elizabeth Wanjiru is saying, do you have to input all purchases on eTIMS as some are not being sent? I don't know whether that question is clear. Is it clear enough?
Not really. Maybe if we can, later on, if you can unmute and ask.
Yes, I think Elizabeth Wanjiru should be somewhere here. Elizabeth, if you're available to just ask your question now, I have given you the right to ask. Elizabeth, you can ask your question now. All right. I think perhaps she may not be able to speak, but let's just proceed. I think once she's able to, she can actually ask the question. But let me proceed to another question. There's a question here. Are the expenses from the eTIMS non-registered taxpayers allowable in the income tax computations? Let me just repeat that again. Are the expenses from the eTIMS non-registered taxpayers allowable in the income tax computations? Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Duke. Let me respond to that question. Can you hear me?
Yes, Duke, we can hear you loud and clear. Please proceed.
Okay. let's go as guided by the Finance Act 2023. All businesses, whether non-fatable or non-fatable, they are supposed to onboard eTIMS. So in case you get an invoice that is not from a registered taxpayer, that's eTIMS compliant, that particular invoice or expenditure will not be allowable in the income tax.
Okay, all right. That you've specified the year being, Duke, just clarifying the year you've said 2024?
2023, last year.
Last year, okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. James, I think you have gotten the answer to your question. Let's move on now and get another question here. There's a question here, somebody saying, should I be worried about invoices that cannot be verified on the iTax portal? And this is the error. The error message is reading, please enter valid middleware invoice number.
Yes. So in such a situation, normally when you get an invoice and if it's a valid one, when you counter check on the iTax invoice number checker or the CU serial number checker, you'll be able to validate either the device itself or the invoice number. So whenever it's not validated, maybe you can contact the supplier, the one from whom you bought, and then inform them that there's a problem with their invoice to check and validate to give you a valid invoice. So on their end, they might be facing an issue, a system issue. So it could be a way of alerting them in case it might have slipped them. So from that end, once they know that it's been invalidated, they'll be able to find a report on their Teams menu that will be able to point out the exact issue that they're facing. So if it's a problem with the device, they'll fix it at the supplier. Or if it's just maybe an erroneous entry that they made, they can correct an invoice and then issue you with the correct and now valid invoice.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's continue. Somebody is saying, the LabChem accounts, they are saying, we have expenses such as stamps, bus fare, newspaper, magazines, journals, and government, county, and parastatal invoices, and minor repairs, parking. I think the question is on matters allowable expenses. Modoni, is this the same answer that you gave regarding them awaiting for the gazettement of the expenses that are exempt? Back to you,
No.
Modoni, or anyone else?
Thank you for that. No, I think this is about, there are those expenses that people are wondering how they can lodge them through eTIMS. Just like they mentioned the bus fare, the newspaper. So for this, we advise the taxpayer to try and get a compliant invoice from the person they are trading with. This is because they will not be allowed to claim it if it's not through eTIMS. So already we've seen some of like the matatus, there are some of them who are coming to on board. So long as you tell them that you want to claim this, they will give you a valid invoice through eTIMS. We've as well made the system very easy, especially the one in eCitizen. You can be able to get an invoice very easily without much hassle. So it's much easier for the taxpayer to get such invoices from there. And on to like the way they've said for the county expenses. So for such expenses, I would say we have visibility through the common pay bill that they pay with. So it's easier for us to track them. So for those ones, we tell them to just lodge them as they do, and we'll get a visibility on the same to allow them to claim for that expense. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you very much for that particular question. Tony Minor here is wondering, are NGOs that are tax exempt required to register on eTIMS? Yeah.
Okay, let me respond to that. So on matters of eTIMS, NGOs, we have NGOs who are on business. So as mentioned earlier, is that from the Finance Act 2023, all businesses need to onboard eTIMS. So if these NGOs have separate businesses, they need to onboard eTIMS.
All right, Duke, thank you. Thank you for that response. Let's continue. Liz is wondering, how exactly does one change for a phone number that is associated to a given PIN on items? Liz Wamari is asking, how exactly does one change a phone number associated with a number associated with a PIN given on items? And I just want to ask whoever is responding between the three of you to comment. Apart from the phone number, are there any other details that someone is supposed to update on items? And if so, how is it done? Okay.
So let me respond to that on phone number. So I'd like to ask the taxpayer to go to iTax and you go to under amendment, registration, you amend details, and then you change the number you would like to have on eTIMS, because this is the number that you will receive OTP on and the password, so on the same.
Thank you very much, Luke. Are there any other details that are meant to be changed apart from the telephone number? Or rather that require updating apart from the telephone number?
Okay, thank you for that question. So majorly it's the phone number, because you can't proceed with that without the one-time password. So you need the phone number, the correct phone number for you to receive the one-time password to enable you proceed. That is for security purposes.
All right, thank you. That is very clear. Liz, perhaps would allow me to add and just say that if you're unable to access your iTax portal, perhaps you're not able to log in with your PIN and password, then we have our staff that are ready and on standby to assist at any given time in updating details on iTax through our call center, which is callcenter@kra.go.ke. That is our call center. CALL center is CENTER at kra.go.ke. They are available also on X, which was formerly Twitter, at KRA Care. Okay. All
maybe
right.
Brent,
let's go on.
Excuse me, Brent, maybe we can add on to that. When they're changing their phone number, please ensure it's not the landline, because you need a number that can be able to receive the one-time password. I just needed to mention that.
Thank you so much. That is very important. Thank you so much. All right. There's somebody who's asking what site are we streaming on? Okay. Thank you. I'll see whether we one of us can share the link on this chat box. But on YouTube, just search one word, KRA TV on YouTube, and you will go straight to the live link. Okay. All right. Drew Tisha is saying, is it possible to sign up for more than one solution? For example, if you are a service provider, but you also have a different small business that deals with supplying goods. Yeah.
Okay, let me respond to that. So I like to advise the taxpayer that it's one solution per taxpayer. So in case a taxpayer is dealing with services, that's if the taxpayer is in a service industry, you only need to onboard, you can onboard to online portal, but it's one service per taxpayer.
So does that mean that somebody like Shah here who says it's a service, but he also has a small business that supplies goods, does that mean then for him, he will first enroll for the online portal, which was purely for services. That is one. And then he will also enroll for the e-client, which was also just for goods. Is that the case? Kindly just give us a clarification.
Okay, Brenda, let me clarify on that. So for him, he needs to onboard on eClient, which is a software which deals with both services and the goods. So that's the suitable solution for him because it has both services and the goods.
Okay. Brittany, I hope you have gotten that clearly, that there is a solution that will allow you have both the services and the goods together. Okay. I think we can proceed to the next question. There is John Owino here, and he's saying, how do we access the software to download to our phones? I think he's asking, how do we access the software to download to our phones or laptops? Yeah, maybe you can recap on that.
Okay, let me respond to that also. So for phones, taxpayers who want to use phone, they can just go to etims.kra.go.ke and download the Android version, which can be installed on your tablet or your mobile phone. But for desktops or laptops, the taxpayer will be required to download the Windows or multi-pay point Windows so that it can be installed on those desktop or laptop, because that's where now you will generate invoices from that specific gadget.
Thank you, Duke. I think the clarification here is that can the taxpayer do it by themselves, or do they have to have to be assisted to actually install it on their devices?
For this, it depends, because we have the user guides on our website, and it captures the process from the beginning, from sign up all the way to using the system. So you find some taxpayers, when they go through the document, they understand it, they're able to do the whole process themselves, so they can just proceed on their own. But then you find sometimes, if you have any doubts, it's advisable that you can just visit the tax station for assistance. Or if you begin the process and maybe you're not so lost, you just need clarifications, maybe 1 or 2 clarifications, you can similarly send us an email. But ideally, if you feel like you just need help, I advise you to just visit your nearest tax station for assistance. But if you go through the documents and you see you can be able to do it on your own, then that's also well and good. Just remember to send us the email requesting for approval once you've uploaded the documents.
Can I ask my question now?
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you. I have a long-standing issue. I don't even know if they're connected. I'm one of those Kenyans who don't understand these manenos of tax a lot. So for years, I did nil returns on a business I opened and did nothing with. So I filed nil returns. Then I forgot once or twice, and there's that 10,000 thing. Then I wrote a letter to KRA. I told them to close the account. Apparently, they never did, so I continued paying nil returns. Then I wrote another letter, and nothing has happened till to date. And of course, I now have what is called I owe Sirikali, and I know we are in the amnesty period. How am I supposed to go onto eTIMS? What's the process for me? I know there's an amnesty. I don't even know how to go about it.
Okay, thank you for that question. So the amnesty applies for periods from December 2022 going backwards. So does any of what you've discussed fall under that category?
Yes. For me, it was 22 paka huko, sijui 2010, sijui 20 what. Yes, it does fall there.
Okay, so you perfectly fall under the amnesty criteria. But for the amnesty, how it is working, in the event that you didn't have any principal tax that you meant to pay, like haukuwa na tax yoyote ulifaa kulipa, it was just you only have penalties and interest, then it is automatically waived. You don't need to visit the station. But if you had a pending tax that you were meant to pay and you did not pay, then the amnesty requires you to pay that principal tax first, and then you can be able to enjoy the amnesty of the penalties and interest. But now I would advise you to probably visit your tax station so that they can check for you, because you said there are times when you filed nil and then there's a time you never filed, because for such kuna wale wanaekwa kwa inaitwa special table. So in case you're in the special table, they would have to assist you before you can enjoy the amnesty package. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. How do I know which station to visit?
Maybe you can assist us with your PIN number on the chat box.
Okay.
And then
okay.
maybe we can reach out later.
Okay. So now,
yes.
After that,
yes.
I'm still supposed to get onto eTIMS.
You're supposed to?
I should get on eTIMS regardless of anything. I should get on it before 30th of March.
Yes, because you see, eTIMS, it's just a system for you to be able to generate your invoices, compliant invoices. But for anything to do with the returns, it's still on iTax. So you still need to join on eTIMS for you to get a compliant invoice, to generate a compliant invoice.
Okay. Number two, you said small businesses, no matter how small, should also be on eTIMS. What were Airbnb?
Even them, you need to onboard on eTIMS.
Okay.
As long as you're in any
mkulima?
Pia yeye, bora tu kwa biashara yoyote, you are required to onboard onto eTIMS. There's a simplified solution for maybe someone like a farmer.
Okay. I ask because I have many relatives who don't even know about this and they're in those areas.
Thank you. You can spread the word to them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
so much, Janet. Thank you also our very able team for responding to. Yes, I hope you can hear me. I'm actually talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. We just wanted to appreciate Janet, who has really sought clarifications, and we are praying that everybody that is on this particular call would actually become our ambassadors in spreading the news and passing in for correct information. That is why we are here to clarify, to give correct information to your friends and to your relatives. I think we can pick a few more questions. There are many, we might not be able to exhaust them, but we have a few more minutes to pick a few more questions. I beg that we proceed and respond to the questions. I just want to go back to the chat box. And there's a similar questions to what Janet has come from asking. This is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is saying about Mama Mbogas. Let me just quote as she has said. How do Mama Mbogas, boda riders, second-hand and new clothes dealers deal with their purchases? How do Mama Mbogas, boda riders, both second-hand and new clothes dealers deal with their purchases?
Thank you for that question. So, Elizabeth, we would advise them to try the eCitizen one, because as we highlighted in the presentation, eCitizen is for people who are dealing with very simplified goods, or generally anything that it's a very simple solution that you can be able to access on your eCitizen. The same way you're able to access all the government platforms and you have the APIN, then it's so easy for you to access the eCitizen to be able to get a simplified invoice for the Mama Mboga, for just anyone who is in business but is dealing with a few transactions. So long as you don't have the VAT obligation, then it suits you so well because it's so easy. As we said, you just need to declare who you're selling to and declare the item that you're selling. So it's as easy as that.
Thank you so much for that response. Let's respond to a few more people. There are two questions. Let's take the first one by Agoyal. I hope I got that pronunciation right. And Agoyal says, we have some foreign service providers who do not give TIMS compliant invoices. How do we claim that as a business expenditure? We have some foreign service providers who do not give TIMS compliant invoices. How do we claim that as a business expenditure? Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. So if the foreigner is a resident here in Kenya, basically they are working here in Kenya, they should be able to issue you with an eTIMS or TIMS compliant invoice, depending on when maybe they had the TIMS from before. But if they are abroad and then they are invoicing you from abroad, then you'll just be able to capture that transaction, that expense in your return. Although they will not be able to issue eTIMS because eTIMS applies only within the borders of Kenya. So if it's a foreigner who's away in Kenya and invoicing you from that foreign country, they'll just give you their foreign invoice, but then you'll be able to claim it on your invoice. But if they're local, if they're basically here in Kenya, they're non-resident, but like they have a permanent establishment or a subsidiary, then they're supposed to issue with a compliant invoice, eTIMS or TIMS.
All right. Hope response is clear to you. Let me go to Immaculate, who is asking, our company is already onboarded to TIMS ESD machine, and it's working with no issues. Are we then still required to onboard on eTIMS? That's the question.
Okay, let me respond to that. So, to the taxpayer who is still on TIMS device is working well. It can generate invoice with QR code and the invoice number that can be transmitted to KRA portal, KRA servers. They need not to onboard eTIMS. So you'll still use your TIMS device. But then if you have a challenge with those devices, you can shift to eTIMS, but then you need to retire the device. So for now, if it's working well, you don't need to onboard eTIMS because they serve the same purpose.
Thank you very much. Just let me ask Duke, what do you mean by retire the device?
So retiring a device is a process that entails that you need to deactivate the device from your iTax portal. It's a process. You need to deactivate the device, and then you shift to once it has been approved by your TSO, then you can shift to eTIMS.
Thank you for that clarification. For those wondering about TIMS, it's the physical gadget tax invoice management system. The next question is by Alex Wahome. He's saying, please comment on the new VAT pre-filled tax information on KRA that started this January. Alex, we will not comment on it here during this particular sensitization. However, there are a series of trainings that are commencing on the 29th of January, all the way to the 2nd of February, that is next week. Every single day, there'll be trainings that will be happening. Just watch out for our social media pages, especially our Twitter page. We will be posting links there for the VAT pre-filled returns training. So that's where the sensitization will happen. And also, we have had a number of them that have happened before that have been captured on KRA TV's YouTube page. You can actually pre-visit the recorded sessions, all right? Now, Dr. Wakira is here and he's saying that you have stated that the eTIMS is cost effective, okay? But then he's inquiring about the mama mbogas that do not have computers and are not able to generate the eTIMS invoice and then acquire a thermal printer for printing the receipts. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to comment on this statement by Dr. Wachira about the cost effectiveness of eTIMS.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. for that question. Let me respond by saying that KRA is working on some few other simplified solutions. That's USSD and the mobile app that can be used by those who have challenge with the other softwares the other solutions that we have currently.
Thank you very much for that response, Duke. And I think also you can, this question is similar because Julius Minor is also saying that how are organizations supposed to comply with the eTIMS regulations in regards to bus fare? It's a question of a similar nature. Would you want to maybe just add a comment there, Duke?
So right now we had mentioned the eCitizen, the ePOS solution, which is the eCitizen, and also the soon to be released, the USSD, the even more simplified solutions. So these options, these simplified solutions are targeting everyone in the business area. So even the matatus and the buses, they'll be able to onboard these solutions and then to be able to be compliant. You can basically generate an invoice with it like in under 5 minutes or even 3 minutes. Like it's so fast and so simple. It's like ultra simplified, the simplest versions you can get. And then also in the meantime, so far, like considering maybe your business nature, the ones who are onboarding, the other options, alternative options that are already onboarding, like now Uber, the other brand names. Then you may consider that in terms when you maybe consider your business policy and just in terms of compliance, you can consider those and also just be in the know that the buses and the transportation industry will also be soon onboarded onto now the more simplified solutions.
Thank you very much, Modoni, Lynn, and Duke. I think that is a question that I have seen come up many times, and I know we have repeated the response, but there is no harm in repetition considering that it's an area of interest to many taxpayers. I see similar questions, questions like how about expenses such as the reimbursement of bus fare, for example, small petty cash examples. There are many similar questions, and that is why we've given enough time to our able panelists to just elaborate on the answers. And we are glad that a USSD code solution is actually underway. Let me just take a few more questions here, and then I'll get one person to ask the question live. There is CSI Accounts and Finance team, and they are asking. Well, let me take Daniel Wanjiru first, and then we come to the accountants. Daniel Wanjiru is saying, you have mentioned that the only way to claim for expenses is that the invoice has to be transmitted through eTIMS. So question is, what about cross-border expenses? If I incur an expense in Tanzania, for example, does it then mean that I cannot claim it, or how do we go about it? That is Daniel's question. Yeah.
Hello. So normally, first it's maybe important to clarify that our borders, our customs system is already linked with eTIMS. So whenever you import anything, they'll be able, and it passes through customs, it will be linked to eTIMS. It will be already compliant. So even when you log into your account, especially those with the eClient software, there's an import management system. So even there, you can just go and when you open it, you'll be able to already see the things that you already imported pre-filled there, waiting for you to approve them, just to confirm like you actually imported these items. So that's, I hope that answers your question. And then also in terms of filing, you remember that there's a different sheet for filing. There's a different section for filing imports that addresses imports. There's local purchases and then there's imports. So as long as you have the documentations, you can be able to just file them just fine. There's no problem with buying from abroad.
Right. Thank you for that response. We keep going. We said we'll pick a question from the CSI accounts and finance team. So the question is somewhat a repetition, but there is no harm. Let's address it fully. And the CSI accounts and finance team are asking, small firms with an annual turnover of less than 5 million, are they also required to register for eTIMS? It's a question that I have seen come up many times. Maybe we can take this and just respond to it once.
Okay, thank you for that question. So in regards to the matter of exemption for those of turnover below 5 million, we state that the regulations have not yet been gazetted. Therefore, whatever was reported in the newspaper or whatever is going around, we say that is hearsay and they are unconfirmed reports. So as at now, we await the gazettement of the ETI regulations 2023 or an official statement from KRA. So until that is confirmed, we still want to say that everyone needs to come on board to eTIMS.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. There are some people whose hands have been up for quite some time, and I just want to give one of them an opportunity to ask their question. Girish Balsara. Girish, are you there? I don't know whether we have Girish still online or maybe EMBcom. EMBcom, are you available? Either of you are actually free to ask the question. All right. I think last opportunity goes to Komal Shah. Komal, are you here?
Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Komal Shah. Thank you so much. Maybe introduce yourself and ask your question very briefly.
Hi, Komal. My question was for rental income. Are landlords supposed to be on eTIMS? Yeah. And again, is it big? Does the 5 million residential?
Okay, thank you for that question. So yes, they need to be on eTIMS because we stated that it's everyone in business. So for the rental income, you just need to onboard for as an non-VAT taxpayer. So for this one, there's no breakdown of taxes because you're considered as a non-VAT taxpayer and you're able to generate your invoice through eTIMS for accountability and visibility purposes. But you're still encouraged to just file as you normally file, only that now your invoices have to go through eTIMS. I hope that is clear.
And does the 5 million limit apply in rental income as well? So if it's below 5 million, are you still obliged to register on?
Okay, thank you for that. We've actually stated earlier on that in regards to the turnover below 5 million, there's no one who's excluded. Whatever has been going around was just hearsay. It's not it's not information that we can confirm is true until the same is gazetted. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There are some regulations on the way that if they are gazetted, well and good, but for now they are not as yet gazetted.
Excuse me, you had asked me to send my PIN. I have sent my PIN so that you can let me know which station to visit.
Okay, that is noted.
Okay. I also wanted to know, once I clear with...
Hello?
Sorry, we'll come back to you, Janet. We'll come back to you, Janet. We have, maybe you can just ask your question on the chat box because you already had an opportunity to speak. I'm sorry, I want to give another person an opportunity to speak, but please put your question in the chat box. The team will be able to see you, indicate your name, Janet, and they'll be able to see you and your question. I want to give an opportunity to a person. I swear, where did she go? There's someone who was actually ready to ask the question before they. Let me see. Irfan Musani, is that Irfan Musani? I hope I got that pronunciation correct. You're actually free to ask your question. Okay, all right. I think majority of those that had asked to ask questions are not available.
Hello.
First, let me hear who is speaking. Please introduce yourself and ask your
Yes,
question. Hilda Wanjiru is here.
This is Irfan.
Is this Hilda? Yes, Irfan.
Yeah, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Please keep your question short.
Yes, I have a question. I have a couple of questions. We want some clarification. We normally, we at times purchase some items, let's say from Dubai, some items for office use, but we on clearance we get this invoice from Golden Gate. Some, we have these companies called Golden, like Golden Gate and so on, which clear consignments and give us give us a courier charges invoice. So what about the invoice that we, or the receipt that we get from the foreign company? Let's say the company is based in Dubai, where we purchased the items from. So are those items going to be claimable, or the expenses is going to be claimable?
Yeah, I hope you got the question right. Okay.
Yes, I think I did. So, as long as you have the supporting documents and you imported them just okay, as soon as they pass through our customs, like I said, they're already validated at the customs point through our system. It's called the ICMS system. So you'll be able to claim them. So depending on where you're getting the invoice, if you're getting from the foreigner, you'll be able to claim them, like by now the importation. But if the invoice is coming, let's say from local, like let's say if you're buying locally, that's the key point. Local purchases, or even if it's a foreigner but operating locally, as long as the invoice is generated within our borders, it has to be compliant.
Okay. Another question we want to ask is, what kind of businesses will be using eCitizen to generate invoices, and is it functional already?
So let me take that question. Thank you so much for that question, first of all. So the taxpayers who are supposed to onboard on eCitizen are non-VAT and VAT taxpayers and APINs, that's sole proprietors. The two categories of taxpayers are supposed to onboard eCitizen.
And is it functional?
Yes, it's functional. It's working.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you for the clarifications.
All right. Thank you so much for your question. I had given an opportunity for one last lady to ask the question. Hilda Wanjiru, are you still here? You're actually able to unmute and ask the question, Hilda?
Hello, my name is Hilda.
Yes, Hilda.
Hello.
We can hear you. Please proceed with your question.
Okay. As you had stated that all my expenses should go through the eTIMS, I'm concerned on the parking fee that we pay via M-Pesa and to City Council, and we don't get the receipt. How are we going to go about that?
Thank you, Hilda, for that question. So we had mentioned that so long as you're paying through that common pay bill, that is the 222, we have a visibility on the same. So you just need to, so long as you have paid through that, we will be able to see it and you can claim it. So long as it's visible on our end, you are allowed to claim it.
So we don't need a receipt, we only need the M-Pesa message. That one will be okay.
If they've given you that receipt, you can still keep it for your records, but there's a way we can confirm through that stream of payment.
I don't have a receipt because there's no one to give me a receipt. If you are in Nairobi and you pay for parking, and maybe there's no city council there, you pay using the online platform.
That's what I'm saying. So long as you've paid through that common channel, then we'll be able to confirm on our side.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for those questions, Hilda. We appreciate together with every other person that has been able to ask their questions. I think we try to give as many people as possible an opportunity to ask their questions. Now, we have a few more minutes left to go in terms of responding to these questions. I just wanted to pick out a few more questions on Q&A, even as we prepare to wind up today's session. So there's a question here by Lina Ward. Lynn is asking, if I haven't registered my business, is it still possible for me to apply for eTIMS? That is Lynn Award.
Thank you, Lynn, for that question. So yes, you can be able to register because you can as well register as a sole proprietor, and as, since you have your personal PIN, you can still register and trade with that PIN and generate an invoice. So it doesn't limit you in case you've not registered the business. You can still trade as a sole proprietor with your PIN.
Thank you very much. Let's continue. CPA George is saying, hi Brenda, do we stop using the ETR once we have onboarded eTIMS?
No. Well, as it was addressed earlier by Duke, if your ETR is already TIMS, like the TIMS ETR, that's the key point, because there was ETR, the older version, and then there was now the new upgraded TIMS ETR version. So if you have the TIMS ETR, you do not need to get the eTIMS because they serve the same purpose. The reason why eTIMS was even begun in the first place was to be able to address those people who are not able to get the TIMS ETR. So if you already have a functioning TIMS ETR device, you do not need to get eTIMS because you're already compliant as you are. You can only shift to eTIMS if maybe you have an issue with the TIMS device and that you are not able to resolve, then we can be able to facilitate your shift to eTIMS.
All right, Ritu Karania, he's asking, for the period extended to March 2024, can we claim purchases that are not done via eTIMS or TIMS? For the period extended to March 2024, can we claim purchases that are not done via eTIMS or TIMS?
Thank you for that question. So what is advised is, even if if that person gets on board after 31st March, whatever transactions were from January to then, you can still lodge them through eTIMS. So even in this grace period, whichever invoices you've done off the system, you can still lodge them when the grace period is over. Because if you've not lodged them through eTIMS, then you'll not be able to claim that expense. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes. Thank you. Actually, we can. Sorry, I can read this out, yes, Brenda. During the onboarding period, penalties provided in law for failure to issue electronic tax invoices will not be imposed on the non-VAT registered taxpayer. Once onboarded, the taxpayer will be required to progressively capture manually generated invoices and receipts issued after 1st January 2024 up to the date of onboarding onto the KRA system. So you will be allowed to whatever manual invoices you had done off the system, you will be allowed to issue them through eTIMS. That is the invoices that you've done from 1st January to 31st March.
All right, thank you so much. I see a question here by Liz that has not been asked by anybody else. This person says, Liz Wamaru is saying, for businesses dealing in credit and loans, no invoices are raised ever. For example, SACCOs. So then such businesses, do they still have to onboard eTIMS? You had alluded to the answer I would allow you just to answer Liz's question.
Thank you, Liz, for that question. So we still go back to the underlying factor. So long as you're in business, there is no institution that is exempt from eTIMS. So long as you're into business and you're making some income out of that business, some profit out of that business, then you are allowed to, you're supposed to onboard onto eTIMS. So regardless of the type of entity that you're into, so long as there's some income you're getting from these loans, you need to onboard onto eTIMS. For transactions that are supposed to be exempt, we said that they will be published in due course. So you can look out for that. We are in the process of trying to we're in the process of trying to make a provision for that, which will be documented for you.
All right. There's a quick question here by somebody who's asking, she's doing a small business of selling cakes. For such a person, which would be the best software solution for
her? It depends. If they're registered for VAT, if there's any registration, any VAT linked to the PIN of the business, they automatically have to onboard eTIMS. But if they have, maybe there's not a lot of transactions, they can onboard the eTIMS version. So you can either get the eTIMS if you're non-VAT and it's personal PIN, the A PIN, that's the key. But if it's a P PIN, even if it's a small business, you'll just onboard to eTIMS.
Okay, and then there's a person, Bernard, I think you had responded to it, but he's asking, please address how to treat M-Pesa charges. I don't know whether that question is clear enough for you, or do we need a clarification?
You are breaking. Sorry, just repeat.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm saying there's a question by Bernard who's asking, please address also how to treat M-Pesa charges. I don't know whether his question is clear or does it require a clarification?
Thank you, Brenda. The question is clear. So for that, I would want to advise him to look out for the transactions that will be published as exempt. For now, I can't give a clear guideline on the M-Pesa expenses, but they should be, for transactions that are exempt, should be documented in due course.
Right, okay. Last few questions. They're called admin. I work in a hotel and we buy most of our stock from the SOCO. So they're asking, can they claim this expense by the end of the year? Also, the expenses they spent on hiring casual employees. Is it a question we can take?
So for the purchases that you make, you have to remember any purchase that you make, basically any business, we've said eTIMS is supposed to be for all business. So even the people at the SOCO, the sellers at the SOCO, they need to be compliant. So that's why we've provided the simplified solutions to be able to cater to like every type of person, every type of business person, from the complicated ones to the more simpler ones who are not maybe so digital savvy. And then with regards to the payment to the casual workers, emoluments is part of the considerations that are being considered. So again, that also falls under the provisions that we are awaiting for publication, like for them to be published.
All right, thank you so much. I think we've come to the tail end of the session today. Just have a question. I want to allow one Peter Njogu to ask the last question, even as I ask you, our dear panelists, to just prepare your closing remarks. Peter Njogu is here. His hand has been up for quite some time, together with a person who doesn't have a name, Galaxy S10. Both of you have an opportunity to ask the question. But let's take Peter first. Introduce yourself and keep your question very brief.
Yes, thank you. My name is Peter Njogu. I have one simple question. This is about onboarding of stocks on the eTIMS portal. Do we need, say, like ideally in goods and services, do we need to onboard all these stocks that I sell so I can be able to raise invoices and make sales?
Okay, let me take that question. So e-client allows taxpayers to first register your item and then you sell. With e-client, you can't sell what you don't have. You first register all the items you are selling, and then register the customer, and then last you make an invoice.
Oh, so that only applies to the e-client system, like level of eTIMS.
Yes, e-client allows that, and also Android for tablets and phones. Also, it allows that, it has that capability to first register your items and then you make a sale.
So for those ones in system-to-system integration, don't need to do the stock thing online and then make sales, right?
No, those are two different systems. So there's e-client, just the normal usual invoicing system, and then there's now a system-to-system integration. So for the e-client, if you have, let's say, your own POS, your own system basically, and you wish to maintain it. So for now, you'll still continue using the e-client to be compliant. And then on this other hand, you can start applying as a self-integrator, or the other option is to consider maybe the list of the approved integrators on our website. They're called the third-party vendors. So you can look through the solutions that they have, and if you see it's compliant with your business, you can link up with them for them to come and integrate their system to your system. So integration and e-client are two different systems. So if you're using the e-client, you have to upload all the items one by one, because it's like its own mini POS. So it's like you'll be doing two systems at the same time. But if you wish to maintain your own system, your own POS that you currently have, just continue using e-client for compliance while you're still trying to figure out this integration side. So if you want information regarding the integrated system-to-system integration, you can be able to find it on our KRA website under publications, or even under the eTIMS menu. There's information, there's a some details. You can be able to find some attached documents, let's say the technical specifications, the step-by-step guide on how to integrate your system with ours. And then a point to note here is if you choose to do the integration yourselves, you'll need to have at least 3 technical staff. And then when you do the application, you do it in the sandbox environment rather than the normal live environment. So the link to that sandbox environment is available on page 3 of the step-by-step guide. So once you do that, we'll be able to facilitate you, we'll provide you the API so that you can work on your integration in the test environment. And then once you succeed, we'll be able to facilitate, you go through a physical demo, basically working with our technical team to prove that you can actually use your own system to generate a compliant invoice. So once you pass that as well, your name is forwarded to an authorization committee where you'll be now legally approved to now continue using your system as a self-integrator. At that point, we'll now be able to shift you to deactivate the e-client that you have at this side so that you can just continue using your compliant POS system. I hope that clears it up. Brenda?
Thank you so much. That was comprehensive, Peter. Thank you for your question. I want to acknowledge that we have quite a number of people who've been following us online. We might not be able to take your questions at this point, but we will kindly ask our panelists to kindly take some few minutes after this session. We just look through the questions that have come in through our live streaming, the likes of Denver County Fresh, who's been here since the start of the session. We have Mark Thames, we have Odiambo Felix, we have Helen Atieno, Goski GM, Simon Mwangi. I'm acknowledging your names because just to indicate that we have seen your questions. Naomi Lincoln also has a question. Prince MK Samuel also has asked the latest question just now. So all these questions are noted. I will ask our dear panelists to just go in after this session and just address one by one to to the various questions that have been asked. There's one person that I don't want to leave out whose hand was really up a long time. Galaxy XS10, I gave you an opportunity to ask the question. You are the last person to ask the question, and then we go over to our panelists to give us the closing remarks. Galaxy, going once. Okay, it is actually going twice. All right. Okay, fair enough. I think we gave them an opportunity to ask their question. Maybe for one reason or another, they were not able to. So then I want to now hand this over back to our very able panelists. Let's appreciate them. They have tried their level best to respond to as many questions as possible. So then I want to give them in no particular order. They can arrange themselves. Modoni, Lynn, and Duke to just give each of you a closing remark, even as you answer this last question. A curious question from a taxpayer asking, does the eCitizen generated invoices, does that particular invoice have a QR code? Over to the team.
Okay, let me respond to that as I finish. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We are happy that you joined us, and we have responded to most of your questions. And we are also looking forward to more engagements in the future. So on eCitizen, yes, eCitizen, that's EPOS, an invoice generated through it has the QR code and the invoice number that is verifiable. So it's EPOS, it's all under eTIMS, the electronic tax invoicing management system. So you can use eCitizen to generate your invoice. And remember, eCitizen is for APINs and those taxpayers who are non-factor. Thank you so much all for having us today. Let me give it to Arimi to continue.
Thank you very much. We've had a very engaging session. I'm glad that we've had this time to learn together. You can always reach out to us for more support, and we hope to have another session another time. Thank you for your time. Over to Lynn.
Thank you as well. Once again, I'm grateful for this opportunity that we have been able to engage with you. And as I had mentioned before again, we hope that you are more informed now than you were earlier when we began. And just maybe a point to note, you can be able to find eTIMS assistance regarding eTIMS and eCitizen at any of your tax stations, any nearest tax station. So you don't have to be like in Nairobi. And if you're in Nairobi, you don't just have to come to JKUAT Towers. You can go to Samia, you can go to Times Tower, whichever one is closest to you. So this is just a point of note for your convenience. So thank you once again and have a good evening.
Wow, thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you, Modoni. Thank you, Duke. Let's look for those reactions that we can use to appreciate them. Where did you get the thumbs up? Let us appreciate them and just tell them how grateful we are. I know they have done their best to respond to as many questions as possible. I've left on the screen contacts that are able to reach them directly. If you can also use alternatively the call center email. That is call center that's found on our KRA website. Thank you so much, team. We just want to let you know how much we appreciate the time that you have taken to respond to these questions. Now, there's something that we are doing, and I need your help. For every person that has joined today's sensitization, we are collecting questions that you would want answered. There's a Google document that I will send to every one of you on email regarding the questions that you have on the onboarding of non-VAT registered taxpayers on eTIMS. We want to hear from you. Apart from the questions that you have posted here, we want to know what kind of questions or what kind of feedback would you want? Which areas do you want addressed? And those are going to go a long way in informing our coming sessions, sensitization sessions. For those that are following us online, thank you so much for joining us on KRA TV. Remember, we are on KRA TV on YouTube. One word, KRA TV. So we've had many of you following us since the session started. Thank you so much. Like I mentioned, your questions will be addressed by our team who are here, so worry not, all your questions are noted. I encourage us to stay tuned for very, very engaging sessions that are coming up of trainings. I've seen quite a number of questions on VAT auto population. For taxpayers, for yourselves, if you're registered for VAT, then you must have seen the public notice that went out regarding what is called VAT auto population. Join us starting on Monday for the sessions that are going to be conducted on a daily basis. So that's it from me. I have been your moderator today. My name is Brenda. Thanking you very much and wishing you a very good afternoon. Let's close with a word of prayer. Let's begin with prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for the time that we have. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to seek clarities on matters and also be able to share our thoughts with our taxpayers. They've also shared their thoughts, told us their pain points and questions that they have had. And I pray that you help us find progressive solutions that will help all of us mutually to the glory and to the honor of your name. And this we have prayed shortly. Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you, everyone. And let me wish you a good